Ladies and gentlemen, 1991 BMW M5. This is the E34 generation, and you see Dynan on the rear, but no, it's not been modified by Dynan. Dynan actually rebuilt this vehicle. They rebuilt the engine several years ago, like 15 years ago, and the prior owner who got that done requested that they add the badge to the trunk lid, and they obliged. We're powered by a 3.5 liter naturally aspirated inline six, making 310 horsepower, 265 pound-feet of torque. The S38, but the US never got the later 3.8 liter engine that went inside the E34. That was only in Europe. We're weighing a little bit over 3,800 pounds. She is not a lightweight, and we have a 5-speed manual transmission, stock wheels with Michelin PS4S rubber. We have McPherson strut in the front and semi-trailing arm in the rear. And in terms of mods, we have H&R lowering springs, adjustable Koni shocks, and aftermarket sway bars. But now I'm going to tell you how she drives. I actually think this is the best looking M5. The E39 is possibly one of the coolest, that and the E60, but the design here is just so timeless. Getting to the interior, it feels very early 90s. Big steering wheel that doesn't come out far enough. You're really far away from the wheel. You gotta straighten your elbows all the way. And, ooh, a lot of resistance to the seatbelt too. If you guys are watching with headphones, we have binaural audio, so it feels a little bit more immersive, like you're here with me, or actually are me. 5-speed manual transmission, Kenwood aftermarket head unit. But other than that, stock. Very simple, very purposeful interior. Of course, the rear view also not stock. Such a smooth engine. Effortless power delivery. But look at these throws. They are 1.5 miles long. The vehicle's limited electronically to a top speed of 155. But let me tell you, first impressions, I'm glad it is, because I would not want to go anywhere near that fast. This car is not anything like modern M5s. From 1991, this very much feels like an early 90s car. You do have other vehicles like the NA Miata or even the NA1 NSX that feel far ahead of their time in terms of the driving characteristics. This one with the recirculating ball steering rather than rack and pinion. There's so much play here to the wheel, right? And this isn't a car that makes me want to drive it hard in the canyons. This is a car that is a vibe machine. It's all about giving you those feelings, the nostalgia, you kind of want to cruise in this car and not really bomb the corners with it. It's not set up for that. It's not designed for that, in my opinion. This is more of the executive saloon that is meant to be enjoyed at 5/10, maybe 6/10, but you go beyond that. Rev match was a cinch there, but it did take me a few minutes to get used to the more aggressive blip. The throttle response is natural, but I have to blip it a little bit deeper. That's kind of the theme of all the inputs here, though. They all require larger magnitude, so the steering wheel having a big diameter with a thin rim, very early 90s. The throws of this transmission really long going between gears. The clutch, the brake, the gas, all very long, gradual, progressive throws. And that translates even to the rev match, because then to blip, it's not just a light blip, I gotta really dig into the throttle to get it to rev match properly. Clutch is quite heavy, has a good feel to it, good engagement and bite point. This is back when BMW was really known for having very smooth inline sixes. Even as I'm getting on these brakes, they don't inspire the most confidence. It's not as bitey with the initial brake travel. But once you start getting into it, you start feeling the whole chassis. It's not the stiffest chassis. You start feeling it flex a little bit. suspension and the McPherson strut. You also feel that it's not quite as planted. Again, a car that I don't really want to push. I just want to cruise in it. And that's okay. Some cars are totally fine as just vibe machines. Just taking you back to an earlier era. I remember I was sitting in the back seat. I don't think it was even an M5, but it was an E34, and it had this nice leather, like a very classic kind of tan leather interior. And I just remember thinking this car was so cool. The way it looked, the interior I thought was so fancy back then because my parents, we had Hondas and Toyotas. But it feels like it takes forever to wring this engine out. Ooh, under rev that heel toe. Good amount of body roll. Seats are not very supportive. They're comfortable, but sliding around a lot, so I'm using my left foot, pushing it into the dead pedal to hold me still in place. You gotta remember, not everyone wants a razor edge driving experience, and back in the 90s, if you wanted that from BMW, too bad. You look at the current BMWs with super fast steering ratio, this thing is super slow ratio. I mean, look how much I need to turn the wheel just to get around these sweepers. Completely different feel. Feels like an entirely different vehicle, not even the same lineage of modern M5s. But underlying that, there's this thread of executive saloon, because there never have been razor edge, right? M3s are definitely sharper. But that underlying thread is comfort of, I guess, some level of prestige as well, right? BMWs have always been more of that, in my mind, especially with the M5 lineage, more so than dedicated sports cars, because they take these regular cars, the 3 Series, the 5 Series, and then they tartan them up into the M's, right? So you're not starting off with a dedicated sports car platform like with a 911 as an example. With such a long throws to the shifter, it's kind of light too. Lower effort. Steering here is hydraulically assisted, but because it's recirculating ball, not racking pinion, you do get a bit of feedback, but it's not a very precise front end, as you can see, right? The owner, his mom had a 5 Series when he was a kid. That was an E34. And for that nostalgia reason, he said, hey, I gotta get myself an E34 M5 when I get older. And the owner clearly loves this thing dearly, which makes me happy. It's so awesome driving cars and meeting the owners who are so passionate and care so much about their vehicles. It's just exciting to be a part of. Their excitement excites you, brightens up your day. I imagine this would have been quite the Autobahn missile back in its day. Super smooth engine, quite soft suspension. Now we did some aftermarket suspension mods here, but it's still very congruent with the rest of the vehicle. Feels very early 90s, very soft, very supple, compliant. And let me give him, there it is. Thank you, sir. A lot of BMWs up here today. Oh, forgot forgot to mention, this does have the Euro spec headlights. Gives you those little smileys with the parking lights underneath. Nice little touch. You're also sitting very upright in this vehicle, as you might expect. Early 90s cars that were, you know, first and foremost luxury sedans before performance orientation. That was a nice little leisurely drive. My friends, let me know what you think of the E34 BMW. I think it very much feels its age, right? Not in a bad way. It has character. It feels like the car is from the 90s. It's not one of those cars that feels ahead of its time. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. It all depends on what you're going for, and that's what you want out of your driving experience. This one also is at 258,000 miles, but it's been rebuilt. The interior is not in too shabby of quality. My friends, let me know with the comment down below what you think. Big thanks to Byron for letting me review his E34 M5. Big thanks to Fenton's son from the Zygreen YouTube channel for making this review possible. And if you want your car reviewed, visit us on jabalandcars.com, fill out the form on the homepage, and I'll be in touch. Until next time, my friends.